I nearly lost the whole thing to a con man. Apparently he was a billionaire. He just sold a share in Jimmy Choo for 800 million. He took me to his chateau in France and to a private members club in London, and we knew David Beckham, all these kind of celebrities that he kind of brushed shoulders with a little bit. He basically then engineered the company to get into a position where it needed cash. The company that had been making 150 grand a month was losing about 100 grand a month.
Tell me, who is Sam Stoffel?
I am an entrepreneur. Sold my software company just over a year ago for 10 million. Now I'm basically teaching other people how to make money using a personal brand, which is what I did.
So that's using social media as a force for good.
Mm-hmm.
It can be used, and you're doing that as well, right?
I actually, when I started the business, I got death threats from people who were already doing much better themselves and didn't want me sharing it. You kind of just have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like anytime you do anything new, you're gonna, you go to the gym, you lift weights, your arms hurt, you don't see any progress, so you give up before you get strong. But you kind of have to power through that kind of initial discomfort in anything, whatever you're learning. There's nothing other than this too shall pass. Power through it, and you'll start to get the results eventually.
You got an example where it's been done really badly?
Andrew Tate. Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Tell me, who is Sam Stoffel?
I am an entrepreneur. Sold my software company just over a year ago for 10 million. And then now I'm basically teaching other people how to make money using a personal brand, which is what I did.
So no retirement off into the sunset?
No.
Cocktail?
No.
Why?
I think if you're not chasing a goal always, you just end up a bit depressed. I can't imagine just going and sitting on an island. Even if I go on holiday, by day 2, I'm like, right, gotta get back to work now. I've got stuff to do. Got too much I want to achieve.
There's a lot of people I know that have realised, and congratulations, by the way, should have said that straight away.
Thank you.
That have got depressed after a realisation of life-changing money.
For sure.
What was your journey from the moment that you had the exit, money's gone in the bank, and the identity loss and thoughts moving forward? What was that moment like?
It was odd for me because the only reason I sold was because I wanted to start another business. So I could have very happily carried on running that business, forever. It was, gave me a very nice life. It was cash flow positive. But it was purely, I've got something else that I think I can do to make me a lot more money. I kind of want a clean exit, walk away, do something else. And so that was it. So for me, it was just cool. That's money in the bank, on to the next thing. There was no kind of, oh my God, I've sold my company moment. It was just, right, on to the next thing.
So that's actually a nice journey for you. So actually that was a chapter closed, but the next chapter was already lined up, ready to roll.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'd had that for 10 years. I'd run that company for, and it was my first business. So, there's an element of, okay, I suppose a little bit bittersweet, perhaps.
Sure.
But very much more looking forward to the future.
How old are you now?
35.
35. So you started the last business 24.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. What was the business?
It was when I was at uni, I was looking for ways to make money, and I came across this idea on Money Saving Expert where you could place bets on and against something at the same time and guarantee a profit by hedging your bets and using free bets. And I made about 20 grand whilst I was at uni doing this, and then finished uni, couldn't get a job, and just thought, right, what can I do? And I was like, I know about match betting. I can set up a website teaching other people how to do that. And all I did is I picked up my phone and I basically told my story of how I did it at uni and how it had basically paid my way through university, told my story, and it just took off and people paid a subscription every month to learn how to do it.
There's a lot there, right? So there's most people go to university and come out with debt.
Yeah.
You made 20 grand.
Yep.
There's the fact that you were confident enough to start doing stuff to camera.
Mm-hmm.
That stops a lot of people.
Yep.
So I want to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
And then there's that element of not only did you work something out for yourself, but you want to then help other people. That seems a really common thread with you.
Mm.
Where's that come from? Because there's an element of, I'm going to say, pride without any arrogance, that you've created a business and sold it and crystallized making money. Mm-hmm. But it always flips back into wanting to help people.
Mm. I think it I would like to think it's just a kind of normal human thing to do to help people.
I'm 48. You're 35. There's a lot of people that take advantage of others and are just very selfish.
I've got a story about that I'll tell you a bit later on as well. Actually, when I discovered match betting at uni, it was very much, this seems too good to be true. This is amazing. Like, I can make guaranteed money by placing bets. That seems like crazy, like risk free. And obviously I did it, and it made a good amount of money, paid for my degree. And so it's very much, I'm sure everyone would want to do this if they knew it was a thing, but no one knows it's a thing. So one, it'd make a great business, and two, it would help a lot of people, which it did. I still now, I posted on my Instagram story a few weeks ago, like how many people have been helped by Outplayed. And you get people replying like, oh, it paid for my first house, it paid for a car, for my holiday, for my wedding, etc., etc. And so, yeah, there's a significant impact it had on people, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's changing people's lives. So it's not. So actually, you're in a lovely position where the entrepreneurial version of you and the way you think that you have then, because you could have kept that to yourself by the sound of it. So you could have potentially, in any one way, not shared that out and had a different business model that might have made you potentially even more money. But the way you looked at it was, how do I educate, and then that in turn.
The funny thing actually though is, I actually, when I started the business, I got death threats from people who were already doing match betting themselves and didn't want me sharing it to the public because they wanted it to be a kind of more of a secret. So definitely a lot of people that wouldn't.
How did you deal with that? Because that could have stopped some people.
Yeah, no, sure. It's funny. Someone was asking me about this the other day, how I deal with hate, and it's like, because I've dealt with it since I started my business, I've had abuse or hate or death threats. So now these days, it just literally just runs off me. I'm just used to it. I think it helped because before I started the business, I used to live stream on Twitch for like all day, every day, and you get plenty of hate doing that.
Right.
So it's literally just desensitized
totally
to it by that point.
Now that makes sense, because when you said you went online and started to, because there are so many, I've got two teenage daughters, 14 and 16, beautiful girls, that are too afraid to go onto social media as themselves, let alone put stuff out.
Very normal.
Isn't it? But isn't that a shame?
Yes.
And the reason why they're not doing it is because they're afraid of the judgment and the teasing, and which is often by the peer group that's just as terrified, and therefore you're not doing it if I can't. For
sure. And I always say, like, whenever you're doing something new, you're going to be terrible at it. Like, you want to post on social media, you don't know what you're doing, you're going to probably not going to be very good at it. Just like when you learn to play the piano, you're going to be pretty terrible at it. But the difference with social media is when you fail at it, it's all public. So it is really a difficult thing to do because you are putting yourself out there for everyone to judge, whereas another skill, you can kind of suck at it privately and get better before you show anyone else, which I think is why social media is so
something
difficult.
That I would love to bottle about you. There's a confidence without any arrogance. So if someone's watching this now and almost feels empowered and inspired by you, I am right now, but someone watching, listening goes, well, what's the first steps I can take to that? So when you were on Twitch all day and so on, at some point you must have been nervous, you must have had that fear of judgment, and you got through it. Can you relate that back to someone that's looking at you now going, I want to, and this could bring us on to personal brand, and because you can't do it without that.
You kind of just have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like anytime you do anything new, you're gonna, you go to the gym, you lift weights, your arms hurt, you don't see any progress, so you give up before you get strong. But you kind of have to power through that kind of initial discomfort in anything, whatever you're learning, because that's just the way it goes. There's nothing other than this too shall pass. Power through it, and you'll start to get the results eventually.
Is there anything that has sort of almost made you stop, or kind of like, whoa?
About a year and a half before I sold the company, where I nearly lost the whole thing to a con man. So the kind of quick version is, it's 2021. Business is very profitable, and I have an idea that I want to build a betting exchange to kind of go along with the match betting company. And I needed to raise money to do it because it was going to cost quite a lot to build. And I get introduced by friends to this wealthy investor, a guy called Jason. And apparently he was a billionaire. He just sold a share in Jimmy Choo for 800 million. He took me to his chateau in France, and to a private members club in London, and to a place in Scotland called Skibo Castle, and he knew David Beckham apparently, and at the next table, David Beckham was on the next table, and all these kind of celebrities that he kind of brushed shoulders with a little bit. So he's very impressive, very convincing, very charming. He basically convinced me, okay, we're not going to agree on valuation, but we'll come up with a mechanism whereby I'll buy 25% of your company for a low price, but you take a salary equal to the profit the company's currently making. So in other words, he only benefits if he helps lift the value of the company. And slightly naively, I was like, okay, I can go with that. That makes sense. And because I thought he had the kind of know-how and the skills and the money to help grow this company, I thought it was a good idea. Long story short is he basically then engineered the company to get into a position where it needed cash. So he, for example, encouraged me to dismiss our management team and put his team in place, and we should rebrand the company, which ended up being a complete disaster. Just lots and lots of small mistakes that over time culminated into we're in a cash flow situation.
And was this incompetence, or was there malice at play?
Oh, malice for sure, 100% malice. I'll get to that in a minute.
Apologies. Yeah.
And so we get to the point where suddenly the company that had been making 150 grand a month was losing about 100 grand a month, and we only had a few months of cash flow in the bank. So it was like, we're going to run out of money in a few months if nothing changes. And I was in a position where I couldn't access any more quickly enough. So he was like, don't worry, I'll put the money in, but you need to cancel your salary. I was like, oh, this has been your plan the whole time. Anyway, around that time, I hired a private investigator to look into him, and everything he told me about himself was either a lie or exaggerated. So he had a place in Miami that he said was worth 40 million, and I found out he'd sold it for 3 million. And he told me that his wife had died in childbirth and that he'd raised his 2 daughters himself. I found out his wife's still alive. Just lots of full-on psychopath stuff. And then I also found out that he'd done it to about 7 or 8 other companies, that he'd basically gone in there, deliberately engineered its downfall, and then tried to take it from the founders. Very luckily, I was able to sell a building and then put the money in myself to bail the company out, basically. Diluted him, ended up in a legal battle for the shares, basically, and he got caught out in a lie and got basically nothing for his shares in the end. So I managed to escape that, but for the time he was
listening to this. Yeah. Well, what a lesson to learn.
Yes, yeah. So bear in mind at the time, I almost viewed him as like a father figure for a while, like this mentor, and it was just all a big scam.
There are snakes in the grass, right?
There are
people out there that say they are something and they're not, but you've learned that and you've survived. You've still got your coat on. And actually, I love the fact that when you introduce yourself, and there's anyone might have sort of thought, well, he started the business and he sold it, he's done very well. You've got war stories, and that makes you a pretty formidable entrepreneur moving forward. What's the business that you're in now?
I'm obviously spending quite a lot of time on social media, educating people about personal brands. I'm kind of doing that just because I enjoy it and I want to teach people that this is such an incredibly powerful way to make money, is to basically brand yourself. So for instance, when you're starting a company, you've got 2 choices. Either you create a brand for that company, you're a corporate brand, or you use yourself as the brand. So when I did Outplayed, I was the brand. It was me sharing my experiences, sharing my stories on camera. All the emails were sent from Sam. And so what happens when you do this is people trust you more than they trust a company. People want to buy from other people. Your stories people find interesting and they kind of relate to you because they hear your stories. And when you can then tie it back to how it's going to help them, that makes them much more likely they're going to buy from you as a result of that. Whereas if you're trying to create a brand and you don't have those stories, it's much harder to convince people to buy. So it's a very, very effective way to, I suppose, grow and monetize any business. So that's one thing I'm doing. I'm then in the background building basically a Shopify for subscriptions. So a platform to enable you to launch your own subscription business, which is what I was doing before. And then I'm also doing a co-working space, like a luxury co-working space, like a WeWork kind of thing, up in Nottingham, which is a renovation project that's going on right now.
Is that something you can scale?
Yes, that's the idea.
So template,
exactly,
and then replicate.
Doing a test one, exactly.
On the personal brand, 2 words there: trust and storytelling. 2 words, 1 word, but trust and storytelling. So I love the fact that you have understood so early in the sort of I say early, but in that entrepreneurial side of things, that people buy people.
Yes.
So we can talk about Richard Branson and we instantly know who he is, but then maybe Virgin comes second.
Yes, for sure. Well, interestingly, he's got way more followers than Virgin has on social media because he was a personal brand. Like, it was all about him in his hot air balloons and all, his daring feats and all.
Hot air balloons go back to storytelling, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And is that the same for Musk and Tesla and so on?
For sure. Yeah,
Right.
and he's got a huge cult of personality around him. He can, write a tweet and tank Bitcoin. It's the impact of his brand is huge.
So personal brand's not a new thing, right? There's countless people. You mentioned David Beckham. What a personal brand. But of course, born out of what was football and then other things he's done. Why is it now I feel like that's been talked about a lot more, and that sort of is almost like the realization it's quite important?
Yeah, well, I think it is a realization thing, because I didn't even realize that what I was doing was a personal brand. Like, when I think back to it now, it's obvious that that's what I was doing. But for me, it was just, I'm here. I can pick up a camera and I can tell my story, and therefore that makes sense. But it makes it easier to create almost like a cult following, because you're on almost like a shared journey with the customers. Like, it was us beating the bookies together, or making money together, and you created this kind of community effect, which was really powerful for growth, because everyone was excited to share it with their friends, and then it just compounds from thereafter. But why it's suddenly become more mainstream, I'm not sure if it's social media changing and just more general awareness of how people are doing it. People like Alex Hormozy, Gary Vee pushing it as well. Combination of things.
Yeah. Is there an element, and I'd love to open this up with you actually, about what makes someone grow their personal brand well, if you like, and that authentic piece?
Yes.
And to open that up more, I feel like the people I gravitate to, and you're doing it right now actually, is they share the good things, but they share the bad things as well.
For sure.
And they're more than happy to do that without any kind of sugarcoating and so on. And so if you fail at something, you put your hands up and so on, and you might say why and explain and so on. Is that something you can relate to?
I think it's really, really important. I think a really good example of this is Tom Holland. So he has an alcohol-free beer brand called Beero. And the way they've just raised a 100 million valuation on that. And the way he's promoted that is by going on podcasts and very vulnerably sharing his struggle with alcohol and his journey to sobriety, and being very open and just telling everyone about how it's affected his life. And so you're watching that thinking, the challenge for him is, how do you take a mass group of people that love him for being Spider-Man and make him care about beer, or alcohol-free beer? And it's the storytelling that does it, because you're listening to him, you empathize with him, you're kind of being taken on that journey with him, much like you would if you watched a Netflix show. So you're taken on the journey. But then if you're someone that in any way relates to that, maybe you drink a bit too often, or you just think, oh God, I wish I could drink less, it is impacting my life, you're much more likely to be drawn to, oh, this product could be the solution to that problem for me, much like it was for Tom. And so because you've both gone on the same journey, you're now much more likely to buy his product as a result of that, because he's been vulnerable.
What I like about that as well is that's using social media as a force for good. It can be used, and you're doing that as well, right? So there's the negative side of social media, which is that addictive algorithm that consumes you, and there's a whole separate conversation there, right? But the point being, if you're putting out good content and you're putting out information that people can learn from, people can find a product that actually they can relate to, the person behind it, if you like, the stories behind it.
For sure.
You got an example where it's been done really badly?
Andrew Tate.
Okay, let me challenge you on that. I can't believe I'm saying this, but he's had so many eyeballs on him.
Yeah.
So do you get where I'm going with it? So someone told me that someone said that almost 80% of perhaps what he says is actually all right. It's the 20% that's just like, what?
Yeah.
That's going into 100% of the algorithm to particularly young lads that then...
I think that's exactly it. Yeah. And I remember when he first came on the scene, and like there'd be a few posts, and I'd be like, what an idiot. And then you'd see one and you'd be like, oh, actually, that makes sense. And you kind of find yourself agreeing with that. But I think it's one of those things where controversy, if you make when you have people following you, if you have an opinion that they hold that they're too scared to say, they're going to like you as a result of being the voice that they're too scared to have, which he's done very well, but just perhaps taken to such an extreme level and created almost, a bit of a misogyny, violence against women, incels and all of that. It's just been taken to such an extreme that it's ended up definitely not a force for good.
I totally get that. So with that sort of line of big muscles, Lamborghini behind, beautiful view of Dubai Marina kind of thing. I am successful is what this is the image I'm now portraying.
Yep.
Where do you sit with that? And the reason why I ask is to British people that have almost learnt to not, you don't shout about your success, you don't shout about, but if you take the kind of the US scenario, it's almost like, you pull up in the petrol station in your Ferrari and people come over and congratulate you. Hey, well done, man. Whereas you get spat at in petrol station in England. So to correlate that to social media, it feels like there's a fine line about being able to want to shout about success and portray it and get brought down, and then have the opposite where it's actually like, hey, I want to be like you. And that is where Andrew Tate has set a few times, these particularly influential kids looking at what he's doing and saying, I want to be like him, and then start following what he's saying.
When I first started doing well, the first thing you go out and you buy a Ferrari and you buy a Lambo, and I've done all of that phase of my life, because at the start you kind of want everyone to look at you. You want everyone to see that you've been successful. But then I think very quickly that changes to, oh, actually, money talks, wealth whispers. Let's
love that saying.
Be a bit more understated. They use it as a tool to get views. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. If he likes the flashy lifestyle, fine. Let them have their cars. It is a way to get attention. I think you do get the thing now of kind of rented Lambos, and they haven't really been successful, and they're selling a course on how to be successful, and it's all just very disingenuous at that point. But it just goes back to authenticity again. And generally speaking, when that happens, people start to see through it. Eventually, it's not something you can keep up for very long if it's not grounded in reality.
It's shallow, right?
Yeah.
So relating that to you have had a big exit. You're clearly busy again with multiple business interests, but that purpose piece, which I'm going to flip to the word happiness. What is your purpose? What makes you happy?
I want to be a billionaire one day, but the reason to be a billionaire is so that you can make impact in the world, and perhaps slightly delusionally, have a company like SpaceX that can go and explore the universe, or that can help people live longer, or I'd love to be able to impact the world in a memorable way. Whether I'll get there, I don't know, but I like to think I can.
So I could feel that. I can feel that. So this is bigger than you.
Yeah.
This whole journey is bigger than you. So you're again, your intro where sold a business 10 million, it's like it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And it's a stepping stone to actually going back to giving back. So what would you mentioned SpaceX, and have you got that? Because I feel there's a vision element to you. You may not have mapped it out, but is there something you would like to affect change?
I hate that there is still child poverty in the UK. I think it's absolutely insane that we are, as a first world country, there's children that are still hungry. So that bothers me immensely. But you need immense resources to be able to do anything about these kinds of things. So acquiring resources is a way to do that. That's one thing. And then so more grandiosely, I'd like to find a way to help people live longer, because I enjoy being alive. And I think I don't accept the idea that we should all kind of have our time and then that's it. I think that people like Brian Johnson right now that are looking into how people can live longer, I think that's great.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Albeit I couldn't do it.
Oh, really?
I couldn't do what he does.
Oh, right.
I would want
sure.
to.
Because
actually, and I'll bring this back to you actually, but the discipline that takes, and for anyone watching, listening, the whole kind of way the blood and the diet and the exercise.
Sure. He's basically a human testing lab.
Yes. Which I get it. We're talking about him. It makes him super relevant, and we'll learn from him. But you love life. You love living life. You got a lot of time and effort into the businesses. What do you do to enjoy your personal time?
Holidays with my family. There's going, and we've just been to the Maldives with my two sons, and just swimming with them and playing with the pool and just cycling around, just enjoying time with the family. I used to game, which is why I used to stream on Twitch, so that used to be my hobby, but I don't have time for that anymore.
No. And there's an element of, it's almost a stigma, isn't it? To be successful, you've got to work every hour of the day. You've got to get up at 4 a.m, got to run a marathon, read a book, meditate before 9 o'clock, and then take the kids to school sort of thing. Where did you sit with that? Because
rubbish. I think the only requirement is that you do have to work a lot. Like, you have to be obsessed with what you're doing. So whatever your particular goal is, it has to be your North Star. It has to be the thing you think about when you wake up in the morning, and the thing you think about when you go to sleep as your most important thing. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to wake up at 5. It's fine if you wake up at 10 and you stay up till, you stay up later. All of that is just rubbish. The only thing that matters is that you are dedicated. above everything else. That's it.
So there's no morning routine for you.
No, I mean, I have a morning routine. It's wake up, get in the shower, and get down to my desk as quickly as possible. That's my
Fair play.
routine.
But you look fit. So where's that fitting in? Where's the exercise coming from?
Yeah, that's only been the last couple of years. I have always neglected my health, but I've found, especially as I sort of get into my 30s, I kind of need to take a moment out. Like if halfway through the day when my focus starts to fade, just taking an hour out actually helps me be more productive. Like going out for a run for an hour or lifting weights or whatever it is. Afterwards, I come back and I'm feeling more refreshed, and I'm realizing actually what I saw before as an inconvenience actually helped me in many ways.
That's interesting. So, because at any one time you've probably been quite a workaholic.
Oh yeah.
And therefore I'm not going to make time for exercise. But the self-awareness piece is that you've worked out that maybe the walk, the run, the fresh air has been better for productivity and good for you.
100%.
Is that fair play?
Yeah.
Where are you with AI? And I want to ask you that we covered that sort of piece of authenticity. So this goes back to the personal brand bit. Go on Instagram. Is that real? And then how you're working with it in businesses.
I have a big position in NVIDIA, so I see the long term of AI. I hate AI for content. I hate seeing AI videos. I hate the fact that I can spot a post that's written with AI a mile off. And in fact, I was on a call the other day and someone was pitching to me and how they'd done all this research. And I was like, it's just ChatGPT. I can see it's ChatGPT. Why are you trying to convince me you've done all this research when you haven't? I think what AI does is produce a lot of really low quality content. And I think it's painfully obvious. And if perhaps it's not obvious to everyone yet, it's going to become increasingly obvious the more it's churned out. AI is a really good tool for research, for brainstorming, for kind of analytical or administrative work. I think it's terrible for creativity. So I don't like it as a tool for creators.
That's brilliant. I'm starting to realize that I've got more of a radar for it. And I think it's because it's popping up in so much now, isn't it? And of course there's telltale signs when there's the long hyphen and so on, but there's also just this element of...
Well, it's also ruining sort of language in a way. So, there's something called contrast framing, which AI does all the time, which is, it isn't this, it's this. He didn't do this, he did this. And that's a normal sort of linguistic tool that you see in TV and everywhere. But because AI does it, every single response, your brain automatically thinks it's AI when you see it now. And so it's kind of ruined it as a kind of mechanism of writing. So, it's got more than just a bit of an impact.
Yeah. Sitting here now, I would very easily be able to call you successful. Lots of things you've done have been successful. What is your definition of success?
Personal fulfillment. What are you happy? Can you look back and think, I'm happy with the way I spent my time, with my limited 28,000 days on this earth? Did I do what I wanted to do?
I love that. So I had a big pivot. You were asking me how long I've been doing this, and around 3 years, I lost all fulfillment for what I was doing. So, and actually what was really sad about that is I was in an entrepreneurial environment. So I had started something I had enjoyed, and then it was property development on a big scale, so planning, legislation, and lots of external factors. So fulfillment is such a good word. So you're waking up every day, looking forward to what you're doing.
Not every day.
Okay, but you get my point. But there's a focus and a steer. I mean, we've covered the fact it's bigger than you, but yeah.
It looks back to what we were saying at the start. Like, when you hear like celebrities, singers that have, they've committed suicide or they're depressed or whatever, and I think it's because they've achieved a load of success early on. They've made a load of money, but they don't like, what do I do next? They don't have a goal. And I think you have to have a goal to be happy.
I love that. Got a lovely articulation. I'm conscious of time, so I want to bring it back to personal brand because you're spending so much time. I just want to ask you what your definition of personal brand is.
Your personal brand is what people think of when they hear your name. It is what you are known for. So you can have a personal brand with no public social media at all, or you could have 1 million followers and have no personal brand if it's just memes and trends. And it's not just for business owners or influencers. There was someone I used to follow on TikTok, and she did content about Facebook ads. And when it came for me to hire an agency to run Facebook ads for my company, she first came into my mind. She didn't even own the agency. She was just an employee. But because she demonstrated so much expertise, I'm immediately going to use her agency because I assume that they've hired her for a reason. So even for employees, it massively benefits you to have a personal brand, because it is the way people are going to start hiring companies, but also hiring employees in the future. If you have a public profile and I'm looking to hire, you're going to be the first person I try and reach out to, and therefore you can get more pay.
So this goes back to what we were saying about trust and storytelling. You're constantly writing your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, whether that's walking into the studio and greeting people, thanking people as you leave, there's this is a trail, isn't it? This isn't just a what you put out.
It's another word for reputation.
Yes,
that's what a person.
Well,
it's your reputation.
I've heard that before. That's it, isn't it? Because so like the polished element of this. Let's just say it was me, because it's clearly not going to be you. That then when I leave this room, and for whatever reason people say, "Oh, he's completely different." Off camera to on camera, which you hear, don't you? It's quite sad when you hear, especially when it's someone that you perhaps thought better of.
Yes,
that's not good personal brand, right?
No, exactly, and that gets around.
Yes, I think that's a really important message, isn't it? Because how we show up, there's a saying for it: how you show up out of view. I hadn't related that specifically, so you've crystallized that. You're super interesting to talk to. We're going to have to do this again, but I'm conscious we're out of time. I've learned. I knew I would. I said to you, I'm going to learn loads talking to you. I hope you've enjoyed it.
It's been lovely. It's been great. Really enjoyed it.
Sam, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.